celebration and toast. This year, we are delighted to raise a toast to Harristown Enterprises, which will occur in just a few moments. Each May for more than 30 years, Historic Harrisburg has hosted an event that celebrates the best in historic preservation and the importance of historic preservation. Today, more than ever before, the importance of historic preservation, not just for its own sake, but as a strategy for urban revitalization, is understood and embraced by those whose decisions and actions and investments shape the future of our urban areas. Our toast to Harristown underscores this vividly. But first, some other important honors and highlights of 2018 in historic preservation. Today's celebration is a complete success by every measure, and that would not be possible without the generous support of our sponsors, host committee, and patrons, the hard work of our volunteer committees, our board and staff, and the enthusiastic participation of everyone in this room. Thank you. We also thank the Harrisburg Redevelopment Authority, owner of this facility, and you can contact them if you want to rent this room at any time, and Amtrak, the primary tenant, whose 14 trains a day make this building a gateway to the world as well as a magnificent historic landmark. Our Community Historic Preservation Fund grants. In 1996, Historic Harrisburg established the Community Historic Preservation Fund with a founding gift from Penn National Insurance and with subsequent gifts from others as a permanent restricted fund to assist, support, and encourage preservation projects throughout our community. Tom Darr, president of Historic Harrisburg Association, who is also chair of our Council of Trustees of the Preservation Fund, will join me here in making the following presentations. First, we invite the Reverend Drew Stockstill, Director of Health Ministries at Christ Lutheran Church, and his delegation to join us here at the podium. Drew? Christ Lutheran Church at 124 South 13th Street is not merely a magnificent English Gothic style architectural landmark on the 13th Street corridor of Allison Hill, but in recent decades it has become an important community asset providing necessary health ministries and human service assistance to the citizens from throughout the Allison Hill neighborhood that it serves. 20,000 free patient visits last year alone. When we learned from Bill and Marion Alexander that an interior plaster restoration project was several $1,000s short of its funding budget, our preservation fund was in a position to help meet the goal. And Tom, if you'll make the presentation to Drew and his delegation. I'd like to make a quick plug for the church, if I may. Sunday, June 3rd, is their Mission Partner Sunday, open to the community, at which the amazing Reverend Jody Silliker, who will receive the honorary title of Pastor Emerita for all of the work that she's done over the past 20 years leading this amazing enterprise. And in addition, the project that you've just heard about will be completed and available to be seen on Sunday, June 3rd. Thank you. Next, we invite historian and preservationist Barbara Barksdale to the podium. And Barbara, your colleagues, if they are with you. The Preservation Fund is pleased to support the work of the Friends of Midland Cemetery, an African-American burial ground in Swatara Township that predates the Civil War and is the final resting place of slaves, of United States colored troops, of Buffalo soldiers, and of many prominent African-American community leaders from the Harrisburg area. The Friends of Midland is a 501c3 organization formed 25 years ago to restore and preserve this historic cemetery and its rich heritage. We are pleased that Barbara Barksdale, the devoted volunteer who spearheaded this effort, is here to receive this 2018 grant. Presentation. Barbara is a great friend, and we cross paths a lot in the history community, and I'm so glad that Historic Harrisburg can help. Now, a plug for Midland Cemetery. This Saturday, their annual Memorial Day ceremony takes place at 1 p.m. Major General Walter Lord, the president of Valley Forge Military Academy, will be the keynote speaker. Barbara has just given me the program for that event. They have it every year. It's a wonderful event, and that is on Saturday of Memorial Day weekend at 1 o'clock. Our third and final Preservation Fund presentation, we invite Ann Yellett and any other representatives of St. Stephen's Episcopal School to join us at the podium. Ann, are you here? Great. This year, a partnership was established between the school and Historic Harrisburg to undertake the stewardship of Swenson Plaza at Front and Walnut Streets. Both St. Stephen's and Historic Harrisburg were among the original contributors to create Swenson Plaza, a project initiated in 1999 by Mayor Reed and the late Elsie Swenson as a memorial to Mayor Harold Swenson. Funds from the Community Historic Preservation Fund and volunteer manpower from St. Stephen's middle schoolers will enable Swenson Plaza to be colorfully planted tomorrow for the 2018 season, just in time for the Arts Festival in Riverfront Park. So, bravo. And since they'll be planning for the bees and the butterflies, too. And one more plug. If you get to the Arts Festival this weekend, St. Stephen's has a book sale, hot dogs, a bake sale, an art exhibit, and more. And now, President Tom Darr and trustees of the Community Historic Preservation Fund will present the 2018 Preservation Awards. Tom?
Good evening, everybody. Isn't David a wonderful pitchman for virtually everything that you can think of? It's always a joy to be able to get together and celebrate historic preservation, and that's what we do tonight. Since 1986, HHA has recognized excellence in historic preservation in our community with the award of bronze plaques, of which more than 130 can be seen around the city and the area on buildings of every description and in every neighborhood. Not only is this a distinct source of pride for the property owners, it is also, we hope, a source of inspiration for neighbors and for passers-by. I know that I stop when I'm taking a walk downtown and say, oh, look at that. A few years ago, we made the decision to restrict this award to just 2 per year, one for residential building and one for a non-residential structure. And you'll see that tonight, or you've seen it in your programs. So, presenting the first award tonight will be Jeb Stewart, and we invite David and Donna Schankweiler to join us, along with, are the Farinellis here? Yes. Here as well? There, Don and Jean?
Yeah.
Come on, please.
Hello, everyone. This award is for the historic Stroh Mansion. Historically, even though it's now the Schankweiler Mansion. Harrisburg attorney Charles C. Stroh and his wife, Villa, commissioned Clayton Lapley to design the stately stone-constructed Georgia Revival-style North Front Street home at 2921 North Front Street. It was erected in 1924. Lapley, a noted Harrisburg architect, designed several other homes in the 2900 block of North Front Street, making this one of the most iconic and significant of Harrisburg's Front Street mansions. Later in life, Villa became a well-known piano teacher with lessons given to many Harrisburg youth who remember today their childhood experiences and exposure to to music in her home. And I think, Lois, weren't you one of those children?
Yeah.
And I remember my sister actually took lessons there too. When I was about 5 years old, sitting on Manor Street, waiting for her to come out of the sun porch. So, very interesting. Villa's living room featured 2 back-to-back baby grand pianos where frequent recitals were held by her students in front of their adoring parents. The home was later converted to law offices until its recent purchase by David and Donna Schankweiler. Noting the home's history and splendid setting as part of the significant row of North Front Street mansions, the Schankweiler's, with the aid of contractor Don Farinelli, meticulously restored much of the original floor plan, including the introduction of classic architectural features, of trim and moldings blended successfully with the more contemporary layout and complement of the expansive eating kitchen. They removed office walls and partitions and built design-compatible rear addition, including a home office, stunning great room, and garage constructed with stone to seamlessly match that of the main house. Further, they introduced mature and appropriately selected landscaping as finishing accents to the home's remarkable transformation, as well as outdoor patio space with a bracketed arbor and swimming pool. Am I right? By thoughtfully and successfully restoring the property to single-family use, a credit to the legacy and beauty of the capital city's Front Street, the property well deserves the 2018 Historic Harrisburg Association's Historic Preservation Award.
Thank you. Thank you to Historic Harrisburg Association for recognizing what that structure is and what it has become. Don and I always like to say we're thrilled to be back home. We started in the city with a little house on Green Street, and one that we had renovated, and then we left the city for a number of years, but we always said we're going back to the city. And now we're back and couldn't be happier. We have lots of people who knock on the door and want to see the house. We always open the door. So if you're out for a walk in Riverfront Park and want to be nosy, come on over. You can usually find us with a glass of wine on that little patio out front. So it'll be great. Don and I love doing construction projects, but that house would not have been possible if it weren't for Don and Jean Farinelli. Don, Don's attention to detail, his design ideas, he made the house, and we weren't going to do that house if he wasn't going to be our partner, and it worked out really well. So thank you, Don and Jean. My last comment would be, if you go down Front Street, you'll notice there are a number of for sale signs, and there's some office buildings there that used to be homes. And I think several of you in this room should look into that and take those offices back to home. Join Alex Hartzler and I and come back to Front Street, because it's a gorgeous place to live and the neighbors are terrific. So thank you.
Well, congratulations to the Shankweilers and also to the Farinellis. Dave makes that point, which I was going to make. There have been so many houses on Front Street that have been brought back to residential purpose. And there are some, as Dave says, remaining. So there you have it. Linda Plessick is a vice president of HHA. She's also a Preservation Fund trustee, and she is going to present the second Preservation Award, for which we invite John Smith and his group of fellow volunteers from the Harrisburg Chapter of the National Railway Historical Society. You are John Smith.
Greetings, everyone. Before I begin, I just want to say I just am very thankful that we've had such a great turnout for tonight's event, and it's really an honor to be in the presence of all of you. So I will continue about the Harris Railroad Museum. By 1929, Harrisburg's growth as a freight and passenger rail hub in the eastern United States necessitated the introduction of new track interlocking technologies to guide the convergence of high-volume locomotive traffic through the city. At that time, over 100 passenger and 25 freight trains per day passed through the yards of the Pennsylvania Railroad here on 14 sets of tracks. The widening of the Market Street subway in 1926 and the completion of the Soldiers and Sailors Memorial Bridge in 1930 resulted in the reworking of track alignments, requiring a more advanced facility that could monitor and activate track switching, train directions, and speed. Thus, in 1930, was erected the Harris Switching Tower, a colonial and Tudor revival styled structure complete with Flemish bond brickwork and keystone window trim, giving architectural distinction to what otherwise would have been a strictly utilitarian structure. From the time it opened, the tower was technologically advanced in signal control and circuitry to allow for remote track switching at railroad junctions. Because Harrisburg was the hub from which 6 major rail routes emanated, this technology was essential in maintaining the smooth movement of people and goods, as well as to aid in the prevention of rail collisions. Now, individually listed in the National Register of Historic Places, the tower is one of only several that still stand on Pennsylvania's main line railroad. After having ceased operations, the tower was purchased from Amtrak in 1992 by the Harrisburg Chapter of the National Railway Historical Society, which restored the tower to its 1940s appearance. It is now an acclaimed volunteer operation, interactive museum, standing as a landmark to the golden age of Pennsylvania's railroad operation in the capital city, and consequently is worthy of the Historic Harrisburg Association 2018 Preservation Award. Congratulations.
We thank David and Linda, officers and board members of Historic Harrisburg for this award. We are extremely gratified to be so recognized, as it opens Harris to an entirely new audience, those interested in historic preservation in addition to railroading. We are happy this evening to recognize Susan Auchincloss, sitting here in the second row. Susan and her husband Sloan have been major benefactors of the chapter in Harris Tower. Sloan served as our program chair, as our publicity specialist, and also as a board member. We will miss him greatly. Thank you for coming this evening. After the ceremony this evening here, Harris will be open for your pleasure to view it. So I hope to see most or all of you at Harris. Harris is about a quarter mile north of here, so please come. I also want to recognize Dan Rapek. Dan Rapek is the gentleman sitting back there in the gray coat. Dan is responsible for bringing Harris to life. When I say that, we have a simulation, not working today, but we come back again, you'll see it. We have a simulation that allows you to route trains through Harrisburg the same way it was done in the 1940s, at 100 trains a day. So we thank Dan for his efforts. I would be remiss if I didn't thank my wife Ellen this evening.
Right here.
Ellen moves around on me there. Without Ellen's, as Harris has taken a priority in my life, things at home have not. And we've accomplished what we have in a large part to Ellen's patience in letting me do that. So we appreciate that. I also want to thank somebody here who I just saw was in the audience. That's Dan Diver. And Dan, Harris Tower, actually I want to tell you, Harris Tower started out in 1930 as HG Tower because of its telegraphic call signals. 1938, this was the line to Harrisburg was electrified, and the name was changed to Harris. It used telephones in 1938. But Dan led a class at the community college in historic preservation, and their class project was to nominate and see Harris Tower on the National Register. They were successful in that, and it's been very helpful to us since there. So thank you, Dan, for those and your class's efforts. I want to talk to you a little bit here. Besides Harrisburg being a National Register site, we also are in a National Register site here today, the station, built in 1887. Also the train sheds adjacent to the station, also National Register, and our locomotive, the 4859. Locomotive 4859 at GG1 inaugurated electric service to Harrisburg on January 15, 1938. And it was about to be scrapped. The Harrisburg Chapter purchased it, restored it, and placed it on display here in the station in 1987. I am sorry that we were unsuccessful in having it washed. We're going to have it washed here in the next couple of weeks. But we're very fortunate to have all four historic sites in close proximity, and they play off one another. I want to tell you, we are a historical society, so we meet monthly. Upcoming programs include the centennial of electrification of the line to Harrisburg. We also have a presentation on railroad towers from Harrisburg to Philadelphia coming up. And we also have a presentation on Harrisburg railways in the Civil War. And lastly, we have a program on lumbering railroads in Pennsylvania. I want to thank you again for the opportunity here and the award. We're very appreciative of it. I hope all of you can make it over to Harris. If not today, another day. There's brochures on the table. Please grab one. We're open every Saturday, 9 to 4, starting this weekend. So we hope to see you there. Bring your friends. Thank you.
I came to Harrisburg in 1979, and I saw that little red brick building down there sort of tucked in that corner, and I thought to myself, what is it? And I never knew for the longest time, and I think it's tremendous that it has been restored with such loving care. And as David Morrison would say, bravo! Now, back to David, who will bring us to the end of the program with our toast to Harristown.
Thank you, Tom. And thank you, Linda, and bravo to John Smith. I should mention, before we move off the subject of our Historic Preservation Awards, they started in 1986, and the first year the honorees included this historic train station, Ann Yellett's former home on Locust Street, and the Colonial Theater building on Market Street preserved by H.B. Alexander. So a lot of friends of historic preservation are still in this room. Historic Harrisburg's highest honor, in which we invite everyone to join us in a toast in just a moment, recognizes a sustained contribution to our community that advances the tenets of HHA's mission, namely historic preservation, urban revitalization, and smart growth. Last year, we recognized Alex Hartzler, known as both the founder 20 years ago of the Harrisburg Young Professionals and as the principal of WCI Partners, the urban developer that has literally transformed Old Uptown. Today, we recognize the transformation of Downtown Harrisburg that has occurred over several decades under the auspices of Harristown Enterprises. Spanning those decades, we are honored by the presence today of three of Harristown's 4 CEOs. Founding President Bill Kiesling. It is great to see you again. Thank you, Bill. And Bill's successor, Jack Buckley, who is here today from Florida. Welcome back, Jack. Jack's successor, Russ Ford, would have been here with us as well, but he's on a previously scheduled trip. The current CEO, Brad Jones, you will be hearing from shortly. To offer the toast to Harristown, we chose Bill Alexander, whose own contributions to our built environment and to our community have been huge. Furthermore, Bill is a past board member and chairman of Harristown who knows their record as well as anyone. A few days ago, Bill informed me that an out-of-town obligation originally scheduled for last week had to be moved to this week, precluding his participation today. Bill and I immediately agreed that we should turn to the one person who has never, in her entire life, turned down a single volunteer request, Bill's wife, Marion Alexander. Marion, you and Bill have been great friends at Historic Harrisburg for decades, and it's our pleasure to invite you to deliver the toast.
Thank you, David. And before I have a personal thank you to Historic Harrisburg and their foundation, I was part of the project for Christ Lutheran Church, and literally we were helping, my husband and I were helping Drew to come up with the money, and I said, let's get David involved in this. And we got him over there, and your grant put us over the top, and this restoration will be complete for the first Sunday in June. So thank you very much, Historic Harrisburg. And now I have my husband's remarks. When asked to give a toast to Harristown for their efforts in historic preservation, I was honored to do so because I considered it a long overdue and well-deserved recognition. Now you might ask, if I felt honored to give the toast, why am I not here today? Well, the answer lies in something that Jack Buckley, a seasoned sailor, knows all too well. When the weather says go, you go. And as a result of all the equipment working, I will be raising a glass to Harristown in a quiet estuary of the Chesapeake Bay en route to Lewis, Delaware, having been victimized by foul weather during the past 10 days. And my editing comment to this is he's with our 2 sons, and I'll tell you, it will not be champagne, it'll be martini in Manhattan. On to the story of Harristown and historic preservation. It all started at the same time as the headline-grabbing construction of the 2 towers of Strawberry Square Phase 1 that Bill Kiesling, then the Harristown CEO with a minimum of seed money and a maximum of creativity, produced the idea of the Aberdeen Muse with its unique internal courtyard. This stimulated significant private capital investment in the restoration of the buildings in the block surrounded by 4th, Walnut, Aberdeen, and Strawberry Streets. This footprint became the first successful historic preservation effort in the downtown core of Harrisburg, a success for which Harristown never got appropriate credit because of the focus on the adjacent major development efforts. Nevertheless, this historic preservation success was the forerunner of many future such successes. A case in point is what happened next. After the state backed out of renting a 3rd tower in Strawberry Square, which was to be built along Market Street between 3rd and Dewberry Streets, Bill Kiesling was relegated to looking out of his office window located at 333 Market Street onto a streetscape of plywood plywood that covered the windows and entrances to what was formerly Woolworths, Bowman's, Gouthricks, and Lerner's, the former core of downtown shopping in Harrisburg, a core whose facades were deteriorating daily. Confronted with a half-complete urban development project, Bill said, "Why not? A historic rehab of the remainder of this key block." And again, with a maximum of creativity, intellect, and determination that overcame many roadblocks, Bill assembled a financing package which only he understood, but it worked. Today, 30 years later, we can walk down Market Street between 3rd Street and Harrisburg University and appreciate how great this shopping street was in the early part of the 20th century. Next, Harristown, now under the leadership of Jack Buckley, commissioned the Urban Land Institute to do a study of the downtown and propose further initiatives for the organization. This led to a renewed focus on the area south of Market between 3rd and 4th Streets, now called SOMA. This project, carried out over a quarter century between the 1990s and today, again, is a massive historic rehab project that has preserved the character of this section of town where many buildings trace their origin to the 19th century. The creative partnerships that Harristown put together produced International House, Brico, and Messiah College's downtown campus. Again, many roadblocks were overcome with the dogged determination of Russ Ford, who replaced Jack Buckley in the leadership of Harristown, with Russ being ably assisted by his legal wizard, Neil West, who's here with us tonight, who did all the legal work that produced the partnerships that came together to create SOMA. However, the creation of SOMA would never have achieved success without the energy and enthusiasm of Harristown's current CEO, Brad Jones, who served as his project manager. So, if you're keeping the score, adding together all the historic preservation that Harristown has achieved totals over 7 city blocks, which, incidentally, is more downtown real estate than Strawberry Square Phase 1, 333 Market, City Hall, and the Hilton. Harristown's other development successes. There's no question that this organization has championed historic preservation in downtown Harrisburg and deserves a long overdue thank you from all of us who appreciate this commitment to the preservation of our heritage. Thank you, Harristown, and a raised glass to 4 decades of successful leadership of the downtown historic preservation of the city we all love. Hear, hear to Harristown.
Hear, hear. Bravo. Thank you, Marion, and we'll hear from Brad Jones with a response.
Thank you so much, Marion. You and Bill obviously have been intricate to all the success we've had all across our history. And, you know, my dad used to say, if things are going well for you, don't talk too much. But Bill, Jack, Russ, who's in Europe, your legacy lives on. We're in debt to the great work you guys did to get us here. We're trying to keep it going. I want to particularly thank our friends from HHA. I'm very impressed by the continued growth of HHA in this organization, and I want to thank particularly Dave Butcher from WCI, who's here somewhere, who helped, I think, get me more engaged in all the exciting things that HHA is doing and how cleverly they're working with people to help, affect solutions. And you can see examples of that all across the city. And I have great thanks for the work that Jeb and David do. Jeb, frankly, he wrote the history of Harristown without, I think, either Neil or I even being involved in it. So it was really an impressive job there, Jeb. So I also want to thank specifically on behalf of 150 employees that we have. we are humbled and honored to accept this award. I want to add, our thanks specifically to, Marion said, legal wizard, but he's also our chief deal maker. So, and an amazing friend. We also have the house on Front Street that he's got for sale right now. For those of you who are excited to see the Schankweiler's presentation, so it's not a paid announcement. But we're lucky to have a varsity team, and that's been the legacy of Bill and Jack and Russ. We sort of joke that once people come to Harristown, they rarely leave because we're having that much fun. But we have a fantastic varsity team, and it's been 44 years of trying to make Harrisburg's downtown better. A lot of great partners and contractors and architects here in the audience that we've really been fortunate to work with, and lucky that we have such great friends and partners in this area. I do want to just say one quick thing about what's happened in the last couple years. I mean, we've been excited to be able to invest over $40 million in the downtown just in the last three and a half years. That's not all our money, but we've been leveraging partners and money and other investments. And we're excited that we've been able to create over 1,000 new jobs and dozens of new tenants, and trying to really reinvent Strawberry Square. I was thrilled that we were finally able to add a grocery store and a new Rite Aid. And the joke we have in the office is you can find just about everything you want in Strawberry Square now, except for concrete and tires. But here's the really exciting part. So over the next couple years, you're going to see over $750 million worth of construction coming to the city of Harrisburg in a mix of projects that include, of course, the federal courthouse and many other things. But this is really exciting news. We've been, involved in a lot of things over the years, but I don't know that, we've seen quite a burgeoning, amount of construction coming our way like this. And so I think it's going to be exciting times for the city of Harrisburg altogether. And the one other thing I wanted to mention is, and I probably shouldn't announce this tonight, but I'm going to anyways. So I noticed that HHA has a watch list of properties that they like to, protect. And I read with great interest, one of those was the Fox Hotel, formerly Santana's restaurant. I am proud to announce that we are going to be acquiring that property due to the generosity of Pinnacle Health, and who's going to actually donate that property. We're going to turn that into a really cool and an attractive apartment complex, and look forward to working with the folks at HHA to get some ideas and suggestions on how we can do that carefully and to respect the integrity of the building. So thank you again for the honor. We greatly appreciate it from all of us at Harristown. I also want to thank our great board of directors, many of whom are here tonight. We appreciate all their support. So thank you.
Thank you, Marion Alexander, for leading us in our 2018 Toast to Harristown. And thank you, Brad Jones, on behalf of your former and current colleagues, for your always upbeat remarks and for your many, many contributions to the revitalization of our capital city. I must point out that 30 years ago this month, when the John Harris Mansion received our Preservation Award, it was Marion Alexander, as president of the Historical Society of Dauphin County, who accepted the plaque. 3 years later, Harristown was awarded the plaque for Strawberry Square Phase 2. I want to just comment and welcome a couple of special guests that are here. Dr. and Mrs. Jim Jones and David and Gwen Lehman, they and volunteers today planted the Peace Garden in Riverfront Park in Uptown Harrisburg. Day that they could get those flowers in the ground before they willed it. Bravo. I also want to recognize Andrea Lowry, Executive Director of the State Historical and Museum Commission, and Beth Hager, who is Executive Director of the State Museum of Pennsylvania. The two of them have been great supporters of all of the things that we do, not only in Historic Harrisburg, but in our community. It's great to have our state partners so visible and helpful. Thank you. And as I look around, I see Historic Harrisburg members, board members, former board members, volunteers, members of committees, too numerous to mention, and I would probably overlook some names if I tried to, but let me just commend our committee who worked on this beautiful event and the reception that I'm about to return you to in a moment. Robin Schuldenfrei, the chair of today's event. John Keck, who is our volunteer caterer. We reimburse John for his grocery expenses, and it's a wonderful job he does. Rose Roth is our volunteer professional bartender. And Wendy Fogarty at the check-in desk, and that was only a tidbit of all the things that they did for this event. Jeb Stewart, who put together all of the things related to historic preservation that went into today's program, and all the rest of you. I'll say that this now concludes our formal ceremony. Our silent auction will remain open until 7 p.m. And if you are the high bidder, please check with the front desk at the end on your way out so they can get your contact information. The reception will continue until 7:30 p.m. The Railroad Museum, which is just 2 blocks away, will be open for touring until 8 p.m. And if you're interested in touring that amazing facility, you can meet John or one of his volunteers over by the welcome desk, or simply walk the 1 block north to Walnut Street and 1 block east on Walnut Street, or you may visit, as John mentioned, any Saturday in the future. Thank you all again for attending today, for joining with us in saluting and toasting our honorees, and for supporting the mission of Historic Harrisburg Association. Please enjoy the remainder of the evening. Thank you.